talk about the future. I'm Kristy Bird MaKieve, and I am very happy to be on this Evergood podcast today. It's not going to be your typical format of a conversation with an expert in healthcare education innovation. Today, I'm going to be doing a book review of this book here. It's called Pluck, and it is written by Alfred Sadler and Blair Sadler. And I really wanted to have Alfred on this show to talk to him about the extraordinary innovations that he and his twin brother got to do over the years. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to meet with me. So I thought I'd give a good overview of the book. It's a pretty quick read. It is only 200 pages or so, and is, just one of those things like if you wanted to be curious about how some things work or how innovation actually happens in the healthcare world, it's a good book. So I highly recommend it. It was written in the last few years. So today is October 27th, 2025. I think this was written 2 years ago. So it's applicable. And I'm gonna first say that the dynamic duo of Alfred and Blair as twins. Alfred is a physician and Blair is a lawyer. So they were both educated in their respective fields. But I also think that it's important to point that out because it brings these two brains and their education and background together to solve some of these problems in healthcare. So I first wanted to comment a little bit in general about why I appreciated their story so much. First is because they are the kind of systems and infrastructure thinkers that I appreciate. They really look at the root cause analysis of what is not working right and what could be built to be a better solution for people. To me, the root cause analysis goes along with my design thinking training. I have a certificate from IDEO University in design thinking, and was also sort of trained to be a graphic designer in my earlier career, which is actually design thinking. And it's kind of really honing in on what is exactly the problem at hand in which to create a solution that is going to improve things tremendously. So I'll first start with Alfred and Blair's journey. It was the late 60s, just a few years ago. And they were in DC and were hired to build basically the organ transplantation system for the United States of America. They were hired through NIH, and at the time, pituitary glands were needing to be harvested from cadavers in order to do research, and it was really, important research. And there was this need to have really good processes in place to make sure that there was consent from the people before they died and from their families. And they led the work that created the Uniform Anatomical Gift Act. So if you have a driver's license here in California with a dot on it and that you have chosen to donate your organs, that all comes from the Uniform Anatomical Gift Act. And Alfred and Blair were instrumental in pulling that together and making sense of it in a way that was easy for individuals like you and me to pledge our bodies after death to research and the advancement of better health, and also for saving other people's lives. So in my lifetime, I've been aware of the need to have like, your heart transplanted and your lungs, your eyeball. These were things that in the early 70s, late 60s, I guess, were not uh, known, like, right? They were still experimenting and it wasn't quite a given that you could get a new heart and live with that new heart. So anyway, a really interesting, they go into more in depth about that in the book. They also were instrumental in creating the Hastings Center with the birth of bioethics. And they also were instrumental in creating EMS systems throughout the country. So in the early 70s, you would need to know, if you weren't alive at that time, that if there was a car crash and it was on a rural road, and these things happen, there would be sort of like maybe police that would respond, or there would be somebody, reporting back to the hospital. But then the amount of time for people who were trained to come and take care of those injured in this car crash was really extraordinarily long. And so what we know now is you can have an ambulance and it's got staffed with trained EMS first responders, and then they can really help the victims of that car crash immediately, and even in transport back to the hospital. I guess the story as it's written in Pluck is that, sometimes people would just send out a vehicle, but it wasn't actually equipped with the life-saving and sort of care that's needed when somebody suffered in a car crash. So you can thank Alfred Sadler and Blair Sadler for our modern day EMS system, which is an incredible system that helps save many people's lives. So that was also wonderful. The main reason that this book caught my attention, though, is because at that time there were folks coming back from the Vietnam War, and there were these medic clinics, and people were trained. They weren't necessarily going into the military with training to be a doctor or a nurse. They could be trained within the military to perform those duties in the field, around the world. So as people were coming back from the end of the war, they were trained, but they literally had no place to go. And so these two twins from the book Pluck created physician assistants. And that is why I wanted to have Fred on this podcast to really talk to him about it, because that is truly healthcare education innovation. At the time, there was a healthcare workforce crisis as well. So again, this was the early 70s, mid 70s. And so creating the physician assistant curriculum and then being able to give these returning medics from around the world a place to then help with the healthcare workforce in their country was a really brilliant strategy. And I am also particularly thankful. I mean, the book goes into detail about how many PA programs there are in the country now. It talks about how one of the first PA programs was created at UC Davis, which is here in the Sacramento region. So we are looking forward to hopefully, meeting with that program director in the next week or so. We're going to be doing a tour of the UC Davis Health Campus because we're sort of partnering in this incredible time right now of hopefully building a branch campus of the UC Davis School of Medicine in the Central Coast, which is how I met Fred. So interestingly, we are also looking at that PA program to see how that might relate to any medical education pathways that we create in the Central Coast as well. So I just thought, wow, what a great opportunity to talk to somebody who really did an innovative healthcare education, um, really just got that off the ground. And is still very passionate about it. I guess there was their annual PA conference, a national conference the other week, and Fred was going to that. And so that's partially why I haven't been able to interview him, is because he's been doing a lot of travel, and still very active in the PA world. A couple of comments that I had just reading the book and thinking about it is that I wanted to talk about innovation, systems, infrastructure. Healthcare, I think, is one of the most fascinating infrastructures and systems, especially in the United States. We're really unique in the world. And when I think about innovation, I think about my professors from the UC Davis Graduate School of Management, where I got my MBA. First, of course, is Andrew Hargadon, who teaches all about innovation, and the main message I took away from Professor Hargadon's classes is that it's never just one person acting alone, sitting in their garage and creating innovative things. And I think that this book, Pluck, speaks to that enormously, right? So Professor Hargadon would talk about Edison and the creation of the light bulb. Well, it might have been one person's idea, but in fact, you have to create that light bulb so that it does work. And then you have to sort of create that infrastructure to make the light bulb a functional thing in everyone's households and businesses, and even the street lights. And so there was an actual the factory behind Edison that was making this new innovation possible. And I thought about that a lot when reading this book, because it wasn't just Alfred and Blair. They give a lot of credit to the many people that they worked with. There was other places in their career, like the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, as it was getting going, and they give credit to so many people where you kind of get the minds together to create these massive systemic changes and innovations possible and carry them through to completion. I think that that's one of those things that, you could have a great idea, but if you can't implement it, what's going on? So Pluck really made me think a lot about many different things. I also wanted to note Donald Palmer from the UC Davis Graduate School of Management as well, where you might as an individual be a fantastic person and trying to do good in the world, but if you don't have a system around you that is designed to do good, you also have the chance or the likelihood that the people operating in that system might not be doing things for the good. I think about the bioethics center, the Hastings Center, right? That there's ethical, good behavior. If you don't have a strong infrastructure and system, the individuals might not be as ethical and good as they would otherwise be. So all sorts of thoughts that came to my mind when I was reading Pluck. I think it's readily available, siliconvalleypress.net, and you could read it yourself. Interesting little bit of history that I think relates to Evergood Podcast and the things I like to talk about, which is healthcare, education, innovation. But maybe I'll have Fred on and interview him someday in the near future, I hope. But for now, I just thought I'd have this book review, and I hope that you have a great day. And always, sometimes we got to think about the past when we want to talk about the future. Take care.
sense of humor. I've found them too fun to know. Hovercrafts, blow-up kayaks would have helped with angry toes, but it gave mashed potatoes. Take that meatloaf back. Hi. Birthday dehydrated cake and box of wine so nice with clean dark hair. I think it's a waltz. I think it's a waltz. But I know it's the longest 2 miles of her. I think it's a waltz. I think it's a waltz. But I know it's the longest 2 miles.